My husband Devin died on a Monday afternoon. I buried him on Thursday. And by Saturday, my mom asked if she could have his watch. That's the part that broke me. Not the death, not the funeral, not even the empty side of the bed. It was that question. My name is Monica Reyes. I'm 36, a public school teacher in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I have a 7-year-old daughter named Ella, and until 2 weeks ago, a husband who made dinosaur-shaped pancakes every Sunday and believed the best way to fix anything was with patience and WD-40. Devin was hit by a pickup truck on his way to pick up Ella from daycare. I got the call while I was monitoring dismissal duty in the school parking lot. My phone kept vibrating in my pocket, and I remember being annoyed. It was 3:04. Kids everywhere. I figured it could wait 5 minutes. It couldn't. The officer on the line said, "Ma'am, your husband's been in an accident. You need to come to Christus Street. Vincent, right away." I don't remember driving there. I barely remember parking. All I know is that by the time I got to the ER, he was already gone. Instant. Massive internal bleeding. They said he likely didn't feel anything. As if that helped. I sat in a beige family room with a social worker who handed me tissues before I even started crying. She asked if there was someone she could call for me. I said, "My mom." Before I could even think. Big mistake. She put the call on speaker and handed me the phone. I was crying so hard I could barely get the words out. "Devin, he's gone. Mom, Devin died." There was a pause on the other end, then her voice came through slightly annoyed. "Monica, we're in the middle of a dinner for your cousin Brianna's engagement. Can this wait until tomorrow?" I don't remember what I said after that. Probably nothing. I think I just hung up. That night, I sat on the couch with Ella curled into my side like a baby koala, still too young to understand the permanence of death. I didn't know how to explain to her that the man who'd kissed her forehead every night and tucked in her stuffed turtle was never coming home again. The next few days were a blur. School sent flowers. Devin's coworkers cried harder than some of my relatives. My best friend Jess took over logistics and called the funeral home. His sister Tasha flew in from Atlanta and didn't leave my side. And then came the funeral. It was small, like Devin would have wanted. No long eulogies, just stories, music, and his favorite hoodie draped over the pew where he used to sit when we visited the church with Ella. Mom showed up late. Her hair was freshly styled, nails done in a bright coral color that screamed not grieving. She air-kissed my cheek, looked me up and down, and whispered, "Did they give you Devin's watch yet? The Omega? That was a beautiful piece." I blinked. My ears rang. I couldn't even process what she had just said. That watch? That was the one Devin wore every day since I gave it to him on our 10th anniversary. It had a tiny chip on the side he always refused to fix because that's where I bumped it when Ella was born, remember? She said it like she was asking about a piece of leftover cake. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Something in me just detached. During the reception back at our house, she took it further. Loud enough for people to hear, she told my Aunt Brenda, "Well, she'll be set now, with that insurance money. Must be what, low 6 figures at least? I just hope she doesn't blow it on grief therapy and wine subscriptions." I was standing 6 feet away holding Ella's juice box. I didn't cry. Not then. But later that night, when I found a half-eaten piece of cake in the fridge and realized it was the last thing Devin ever baked with Ella, banana chocolate chip, I sank to the kitchen floor and howled. I thought that was rock bottom. But 2 nights later, I woke up to find my mom in Devin's office. She was going through his drawers, and when I asked her what the hell she was doing, she turned around calmly and said, "Just seeing if he left anything valuable behind." She didn't even flinch. Just stood there in Devin's office, fingers still wrapped around the drawer handle, like I was the one being dramatic. Like I had interrupted her in some rightful business. Just seeing if he left anything valuable behind. That sentence should have come with a slap, or a lightning bolt, or something to stop the world for a second. But everything just kept going. I took 2 steps into the room, feeling the heat rise in my neck. Valuable? He left behind his daughter, His wife. Does that not count? She sighed. Monica, don't be emotional. You know what I mean. Jewelry, stocks, whatever's worth something. I figured you'd be too upset to go through all this, so I thought I'd help. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because if I didn't, I would have screamed loud enough to wake the dead. Help? You showed up late to his funeral with a blowout and coral nails. You asked for his watch like it was a party favor. And now you're rummaging through his things like he's a damn estate sale? She straightened her spine, that familiar tilt of her chin she used whenever she was about to guilt me into silence. You think I'm being cold, but I'm being realistic. You're a single mom now, Monica. You've got a mortgage, a kid, and a public school salary. You'll thank me later. She left the room like she hadn't just ripped my chest open. And for a minute, I just stood there. Devin's office still smelled like his cedar cologne. The lamp on his desk was still set to that weird dim level he liked. His pen lay uncapped beside a notepad filled with doodles from Ella. That night, I didn't sleep. 2 days later, she sat me down at my own kitchen table like she was a financial advisor. She had papers. Actual papers. I took the liberty of drafting a simple agreement, she said, sliding a folder across to me like she was passing a menu. It just outlines how we could, together, manage the insurance money. For the good of the family. My jaw locked. What family? I asked quietly. She pressed on. You know I've been struggling with my prescriptions, and your uncle needs back surgery, and your cousin's tuition is... What does any of that have to do with Devin? I snapped. He was part of this family too. He would have wanted to help. I stood up. My chair scraped against the floor with a screech that startled even her. Devin wanted Ella to have a future. He worked overtime for a year just to afford that damn premium. He wasn't saving for you, or your brother, or his third divorce. She blinked. You're really going to throw everything we've done for you in our faces? I could feel it boiling in me. What exactly have you done for me, Mom? Besides showing up when there's something to take? Her voice dropped low like a warning. Don't push me, Monica. You don't want to be the kind of daughter who turns her back on her own mother. I laughed again. Newsflash. I already am. She stormed off to the guest room and slammed the door. I heard her mutter something about raising an ungrateful brat and regretting not pushing for private school. I didn't even cry this time. I went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and sat with it in silence. Ella was asleep upstairs, hugging Devin's hoodie like it was the only anchor she had left in the world. And I thought, what would he do if he were here? He'd protect us. That much I knew. So the next morning, I asked her to leave. She threw a fit, said she'd never forgive me, said I was selfish, said I was making this harder than it needs to be. But I didn't back down. That night, as I was cleaning out Devin's nightstand, I found something I hadn't seen before. Taped to the underside of the drawer was a sealed envelope. It had my name on it, and inside was a letter. A single page, his handwriting, and one line that stopped my heart. If my death makes anyone greedy, protect Ella at all costs. You'll know who I'm talking about. The envelope was taped underneath Devin's nightstand drawer, like he wanted to make damn sure no one would find it by accident. It had my name on it, in his handwriting. Just Monica. No date, no occasion. My hands were shaking when I opened it. I don't know what I expected. Maybe something poetic, or maybe just a list of passwords. But it was one page, written in pen, like he'd scribbled it in one quiet sitting when the house was asleep. And at the very top it said, if my death makes anyone greedy, protect Ella at all costs. You'll know who I'm talking about. That one sentence hit me harder than any eulogy. It confirmed what I hadn't let myself believe. Devin saw it too. The way my mother circled our lives like a buzzard every time something vulnerable cracked open. He knew this could happen. He saw it coming. And even in death, he was still looking out for us. I read the rest of the letter maybe a dozen times. He'd written it a few months before the accident, after a routine physical had revealed some concerning results. Nothing dramatic, but enough to plant a seed of fear. He hadn't told me, because he didn't want me to worry. So instead, he wrote this letter. Quietly, alone, and taped it to the bottom of a drawer, like some kind of insurance against people like her. By the next morning, I knew what I had to do. I called Thomas, Devin's friend and the lawyer who had helped him set up his estate stuff. He came over that afternoon with coffee and an entire accordion folder of documents. Everything was in place. Devin had made sure of it. There was a trust set up for Ella that couldn't be touched until she was 25, except for education and essentials. I was the sole executor. And more importantly, he told me Devin had explicitly asked to exclude any secondary claims from my side of the family. By name. Thomas paused when he said that. Looked uncomfortable. I leaned in. Wait, he named my mother? He nodded slowly. And your uncle? And this one surprised me. Your cousin Serena. There was a conversation Devin had with them. He didn't tell you? I blinked. What kind of conversation? Thomas shifted. It happened last year, after your birthday dinner, I think. Devin told me he got cornered in the garage. Your mom brought up a real estate investment she wanted help with. Said she'd cut you in, but Devin knew it was a setup. I felt like throwing up. He never told me. Thomas nodded again. He didn't want to put you in the middle, but he did everything to make sure they couldn't touch Ella's future. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept looking at the envelope, at his handwriting. My mother hadn't just made a greedy comment at a funeral. She had been planning this, long before Devin died. The next day, I found Ella in her room, working on something with crayons and glitter glue. She looked up, innocent as ever. Mom, when people die, can other people take their stuff if they weren't nice to them? My heart dropped. Why do you ask that, baby? She shrugged. I heard Grandma say Devin's bike should go to Uncle Greg because he always wanted a Harley. But Devin never liked Uncle Greg. That was it. I told Ella to grab her backpack. We were going to Tasha's house. I needed space. I needed safety. I needed someone who wasn't playing a long game on my dead husband's memory. We were halfway out the door when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. Family dinner, tomorrow, 5 p.m. We all need to talk. Bring the documents. No greeting, no apology, just orders. I stared at the screen. My hands went cold. And then Ella, my sweet, perceptive, too wise for her age Ella, looked up at me and said, Is Grandma going to try and take Daddy's money? I didn't answer, because deep down I already knew. I know this story is spiraling fast, and honestly, I'm still trying to breathe through the mess. But if you've ever lost someone and had people circle you like vultures, if you've ever had to protect your peace while grieving, I see you. And I hope you know you're not crazy for setting boundaries, even if they're with people who share your blood. Sometimes family doesn't show up with flowers. They show up with forms. Open parenthesis. I knew it was going to be a setup the second I pulled into my parents' driveway. The cars lined the curb like it was Thanksgiving, not a grief-driven family conversation. I recognized Uncle Greg's truck, my Aunt Marisol's hybrid, and, unfortunately, my cousin Serena's Lexus, the one she couldn't afford but drove like she deserved. Ella apretó mi mano mientras salíamos del coche. Do I have to talk, Mom? She whispered. Only if you want to, I told her. But you don't owe anyone anything today, not even eye contact. Inside, the house smelled like pot roast and manipulation. My mom greeted us at the door with a pinched smile and too much perfume. She bent down to Ella's level with that voice she uses in public. High, fake sweet, like she's trying to sell a cookie at a bake sale. There's juice and coloring books in the sunroom, honey. Why don't you go draw me something beautiful? Ella looked up at me for confirmation. I gave her a small nod and she walked off, but not before slipping something into my coat pocket. I didn't check it yet. Too much noise in the air. In the living room, everyone was already seated like it was a goddamn board meeting. My dad stood as I entered, holding a manila folder like it was sacred scripture. Thank you for coming. he said. We wanted to have a civil adult conversation about what's fair. I sat, slowly, calm. I'd practiced for this. What's fair? I repeated, deadpan. You mean what's left for you to take? My mom cut in quickly. Monica, we've already explained. This isn't about taking. It's about family, support, stability. For who? I asked. Because Devin supported his family. He paid off my student loans, he started Ella's college fund, and he literally worked himself into the ground making sure we'd be okay. He didn't do all that so you could buy a new sunroom. My cousin Serena rolled her eyes. It's not like we're asking for all of it. I turned to her slowly. What exactly are you asking for, Serena? The trust fund he set up for my daughter? The house he died trying to keep us in? Silence. Then my dad finally opened his folder. Inside was a printed spreadsheet, itemizing Devin's life insurance payout, estimated value of his motorcycle, retirement funds, and, get this, a proposed redistribution plan. 40% to my parents, 20% to Serena for education, 10% to Uncle Greg for family debt relief. The rest they graciously left to me and Ella. I stared at the paper, then looked around the room. They were all watching me like I was an ATM with feelings. You all sat at Devin's funeral, I said quietly, and thought about your bank accounts? My dad stiffened. We thought about the future. That's what Devin would have wanted, for the family to be taken care of. I pulled out my folder. Thomas helped me prepare it. I flipped it open and laid down copies of Devin's will, the trust papers, the account beneficiaries, every legal safeguard Devin had set up to protect Ella and me from exactly this conversation. None of you are entitled to a cent, I said. Devin knew exactly who he didn't trust. And surprise, it's all of you. My mom paled. My dad flushed with anger. You don't get to make this decision alone, he barked. We're your family. No, I said. You're my relatives. My family is upstairs coloring. Then I pulled out the thing Ella slipped into my coat. It was a folded drawing on notebook paper. At the top, who showed up? She'd drawn a big heart in the middle, with 3 stick figures inside. Her, me, and Aunt Tasha. Outside the heart, everyone else. Names scribbled under angry-looking faces with X's for eyes. Even Grandma and Grandpa. Underneath, she'd written in careful second-grade print, Love is not for sale. Neither is Daddy. I slid the drawing across the table. And I swear, for once, no one had a damn thing to say. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and turned to leave. And that's when my mom, voice trembling, said something that made me stop in my tracks. You should know, Devin didn't leave you everything. I turned slowly. What? She looked at my dad, then back at me. He wrote a separate letter, to Gregorian, about the bike. I stared, cold rushing through my veins. What letter? She opened her purse and pulled out a folded page, Devin's handwriting. And in the corner, for Greg, only if I'm gone. I don't know what's in that letter yet, but if what she's saying is true, someone's been hiding part of Devin's final wishes from me, and I don't know whether to be scared or furious. If you've ever had to fight for what's already yours, especially while grieving, I see you. And if you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted after a loss, I want you to know, it's not weakness to feel betrayed. It's human. You're not alone in this. The letter felt heavier than paper should. My mom held it like it was a trophy, like it gave her leverage. Devin left this for Greg, said it was only to be opened if something ever happened to him. I didn't take it right away. Not because I didn't want to read it, but because I didn't trust anything coming out of her hands anymore. Still, I reached for it. And when my fingers brushed that familiar handwriting, I felt my throat tighten. Devin's voice was still echoing in my head from the first letter. And now this. Another message from the grave. Another twist I hadn't seen coming. I opened it slowly. Inside, Devin had written just 4 paragraphs. Short. Director. No fluff. He started by saying he knew Greg had always resented him for marrying the daughter their parents liked better. Said he never wanted bad blood, but he saw through the fake smiles. Then came the part that made my heart lurch. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone, which means Monica and Ella are vulnerable. So let me be clear. You get nothing. Not the bike, not the money, not the house. Not even a memory, because you didn't earn any of it. And then the last line. If you try anything, this letter goes to Thomas and becomes Exhibit A. Greg went pale. I handed the letter to Thomas without a word. And that's when it happened. My dad tried to snatch the paper from Thomas's hands. My mom started yelling. Serena started crying. Loud, performative sobs like she'd just missed her big break on The Bachelor. And I just stood there in the eye of the storm, watching the people who raised me implode over a dead man's dignity. Thomas calmly put the letter back in his briefcase and stood. I think we're done here. I nodded and turned to Ella, who had wandered in from the sunroom, holding her drawing from earlier like a tiny shield. Can we go home now? She asked. Yeah, baby, I said. We're going home. That night, I burned the spreadsheet they gave me. I made grilled cheese for dinner, and we ate it on the living room floor. Devin's hoodie was still draped over the back of Ella's chair. We were quiet, but it wasn't the heavy kind of silence anymore. It was peace. A week later, I got a call from Thomas. Greg had tried to file a claim for unjust exclusion from the will. It was dismissed within days. The letter ended him. My parents? They've been silent since. I heard through Aunt Marisol that they're reeling from the embarrassment. Apparently, word's gotten around that they tried to extort their grieving daughter. Good. Let it stick. As for me and Ella, we're okay. We're rebuilding. Devin's voice is still in our house, not through letters anymore, but in the way I tell Ella her worth is not up for debate. In the way she reminds me to lock the bike in the garage. In the way she says, Daddy would have laughed at that. And then actually laughs. I lost the love of my life, but I didn't lose myself. And I didn't lose our daughter's future. Because family isn't who asks for your strength. It's who protects it when you're running out. And sometimes, justice doesn't look like a courtroom. It looks like walking away with your head high while the people who tried to break you have to live with the echo of their own failure. The biggest thing I've learned? Silence in grief is normal. But silence in the face of disrespect? That's a choice. And I'm done choosing quiet. If you've ever had to protect your peace after losing someone, especially from people who were supposed to protect you, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. I truly read everyone. And if you're still in the thick of it, still fighting to rebuild, stay. You're not alone. Not anymore.